What's up, fellow trainers, party people, PTDC, and others? My name is Ren Jones. I am your host today for this Facebook Live session. I know you guys are used to Brittany. Shout out to Brittany. We miss you, Brittany. She did an awesome job last season hosting these live sessions. So we're back with a special episode today to kick off season 2 of these broadcasts. We want to give you guys great information about being online trainers, all the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts. And I'm so excited for our first guest for this season. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Ren Jones. I work for Fitness Jones Training. I'm also Fitness Jones Training. And I graduated OTA with the first group. So John sort of tapped me to come in and host these podcasts. And today I have a very special new friend. Her name is Jennifer Lemke, Jen Lemke. She's going to give you some information that is going to be invaluable, guys. You're going to love it. And special treat, we've got a real life love story for you today on the first episode. The Titanic pales in comparison to the love story that we're going to share today with Jen, although hers has a much happier ending. We all know Jack could have fit on that door, but I digress. But first things first, I promised Jen a treat because 6 years ago in June, she gave birth to a beautiful baby business. I got to go lounge singer here because she's at her 6th anniversary. Happy birthday, Jen, to your bustling baby business. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jen. Happy birthday. Big finish to you.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
Jen Lemke is here, and she's going to share some information for you. So, Jen, introduce yourself to all the adoring fans out there in internet land. Tell us what you do. Tell us who you are. Tell us how you got started. We're eager to get the information.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me today. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
So I'm Jen. I own a business called Benefits Personal Training, and I actually got into personal training kind of on a whim. I was, just graduating high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that stage, but I knew I loved to be active. I knew I was a bit of a natural leader, whether I was in leadership roles on teams or whatever else. And I really just had a knack for encouraging people. I really loved doing that, and so personal training kind of just came across, and I really loved the idea of it. I was interested in it. And so I actually enrolled in a diploma course here in Edmonton where I live, and got a diploma in personal training. And so that was a really intensive schooling that I did to start off, but it got me all the certifications that I needed, and it really equipped me to start as a personal trainer successfully. And so once I finished there, actually at 19 years old, I started my business as a personal trainer, and I decided to do my own thing because I really believed that there was something that I could provide that maybe a job opportunity wouldn't allow me to do. And so that is kind of how I got started in it. And I started with personal training, with group training, with partner training, and then kind of probably about 3 years in, online training kind of crossed my view. And I thought, hey, this might be something that could be interesting. But at that stage, I'll be honest and say I probably didn't take it very seriously. And that was mostly just because I thought it would be a good additional service. I was doing fine with what I was offering, and it was more just, a bonus that I could provide. And so I actually did the 1K extra with John, and I probably didn't take it as seriously as I should have. But a couple of years later, I started getting more into traveling, and I really enjoyed traveling, but I realized that every time I went on a trip, my business would stop, and that meant all the financial means as well with it. And so it became more prevalent that, maybe I was going to need something that would allow me to still work and do the things that I loved. And that's maybe where the bit of the love story comes in, because I had gone traveling and I met my now boyfriend, who happens to live in Australia, and I'm in Canada. And so then it became very obvious that if I wanted to do if I wanted to pursue both the relationship but still do what I loved, that it wasn't no longer an option. It was a necessity that I was going to need to make my business function online, and even if I wasn't there physically speaking. And so that's kind of where now I've gotten to the point, 6 years in, is really now that has become probably the main focus of my business over everything else.
So you decided to move for love. And that really, do you feel like you immediately took the online process a little bit more seriously? Because I'm always interested in the motivation for just entrepreneurs in general, but obviously trainers, what motivates us, what drives us to do things in a different way or to make a change in the thought process. Would you say that the key indicator for changing your thoughts around online training, in addition to finances, was the fact that you felt like you could take the next step of life if you had a better handle on how to provide a service, because you love both things, right?
Yeah,
You love him, or her. I didn't ask, but you love your partner, and you love training.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that was the best way to mesh the two?
Yeah, it did. It felt really, really important that I could somehow maintain both. And actually, probably the first time I went to visit my boyfriend in Australia was the first time that I had then seen the OTA come up. And it kind of was perfect timing, because I was like, I'm here in Australia and I'm literally not working. And I was there for 6 weeks the first time. And 6 weeks is a long time to go without any kind of pay. And so it really was, when I was there in the reality of that situation, I was like, okay, I need to do something. And basically from the time I got home, I started the ball in terms of getting that course going. And yeah, it worked out well in that capacity.
Yeah, I tell you what, if John Goodman had a superpower, it would be timing. I swear,
Yeah.
I think he has some type of algorithm where he sits at a major board somewhere. There's a large screen somewhere, and he sees the track of everyone's life, and somehow you just get an email, a text, a Facebook notification, or something from John Goodman at the right time in your life, and it changes the course of your life. So you went from group training to small group training to personal training. Can you give us a little bit more information about how exactly did that transition happen? And then we'll get into some of the key points to your business. But I'm interested to know, because there are probably people out there who may do a group training thing or small group training. How did you make that transition?
Yeah, so I was probably doing them all independently together at the same time. But what I was doing with online training in the back of my brain is I was trying to think of, how can I take these clients in their specific situation, whether they're in a group setting, whether they're in a partner setting, whether they're in, just a one-on-one setting, and how can I cater to them? If this was to turn online for them, how could I still appeal to them, whether they're in a group setting, whether they're in an independent setting? Because obviously, if there's people there in group, they're there for a reason. Maybe they like the community element of it, and maybe for the in-person person, they like just being with me because it's just one-on-one. They have my undivided attention. And so before I even transitioned clients to online, I was thinking, how can this appeal to them? Because it won't be the same thing, but how can I take what they like about what they're receiving now, and how can I put that into an online scenario where eventually that would also appeal to them as well?
So that's interesting. So at that point, had you already met your significant other, or were you just generally sort of thinking about ways to incorporate what was happening live in an online process? And if so, where do you think that curiosity came about eventually? Did you just recognize that online training was going to be sort of a concept, that it was just a natural transition for what we do as trainers? How did you come to that decision to put in that thought process where you were sort of constantly thinking about how to transition?
Yeah. I think there was a few reasons. On the relationship side of things, I've always been very forward thinking. So, in the context of if this thing actually works out and I need to either be in a completely different country or I need to be back and forth, I'm going to need to have to figure out an option that way. And so just forward thinking, I start thinking about ideas. That's just always the way I've been with my business in that capacity. But then on the other side of things, I had really kind of established my target market. I knew who I loved working with. And I had also noticed that these people that I loved working with, in-person training wasn't actually feasible for them long term. So it was a great option that they loved. But I'd have them for maybe 10 sessions, and then just their schedule wouldn't allow for it later on, and maybe they didn't have the funds for it later on. And so I was losing the clients that I really loved working with because they just couldn't maintain in-person sessions with me long term. And so it was a bit of both, coming together as to how can I make this so it works for me, but also how can I make it work for those clients that I really do love working with, which are busy students, moms, and working women.
I understand that completely. So let's get into to your major takeaway about
Sure.
online training, which is brilliant. I love the way that you talked about this. For the folks out there in internet land, we had a chance to chat before this live started, but I love the way you talk about the difference between the two, and maybe how some people misperceive that one thing is it's just the same thing in a different place, or deliver it differently. Talk to us about your big takeaway about the differences between training in person and online training.
Sure. Yeah. I think right away when people say personal training, whether it's online or in person, unless they really know the differences, they are just going to assume they are the same service delivered a different way. And to be honest, in my experience, they are so completely different. And there's a few ways that you can look at it in that capacity. But with in-person training, they have your attention for that hour, and that's great. You can educate them, you can lead them, you can encourage them in that hour. But after that hour is over, you basically press pause onto their progress. Unless they're super independent on their own, for the most part, you pause until the next session that they're together. And so if you transfer that over to online training, your expectations would be really weird, because I'm never going to see you in person, not likely. But if that's your expectation, then yeah, when you're at the gym, or when you're struggling to get to the gym, but it's me that keeps you accountable to get there, you're going to be disappointed because I physically can't get myself to the gym to be there. And so you can look at that kind of in a bad way, but I've always phrased it with online training that instead of just being there for you for the hour, I am there for you for every minute, for the week. I'm a resource that is constantly available to you. And that is really where it's different between online training and in-person training. Where I only maybe have 1 hour of control over your entire week. Now I can actually be with you throughout the entirety of the week, whenever you need me. And that, I think, is a huge difference that you have to approach online training with, because yeah, if the client just assumes that, you have to be a physical presence for them, they're going to miss out on everything that online training really is.
So tell us how, in your situation, having that realization, which is amazing and really smart, by the way. I hope the people that are watching the live session are getting that, because I sometimes see questions in the groups that we're both in, whether it be Online Trainers Unite or PTDC, people who have sort of an aversion, trainers who have sort of an aversion to online training. A question was presented last week, why would anybody train online? But you make some very, very good points there. So am I understanding correctly that you're saying you feel like you can be more involved in the daily life of the client? And tell us about how OTA ties into that for you. Like, how did OTA help you sort of develop the understanding that these are two completely different things? What benefits did you get from that process?
Yeah, sure. So I think with doing that course, I know initially when I was kind of playing around with online training 3 years prior, I was kind of making it up as I went. And I probably in some ways was trying to make the same as in-person training happen. And that's where I was probably finding that tension, is because they are so different. You can't, no matter how much you try, you can't make them the same thing. And so when I finally did the course, it took me through each step as to how to make that different and to make it successfully different. And just through that course and now doing online training, I think I'm all in for online training, because I do feel like I'm more capable of helping clients make changes because I set the foundations for my business to be able to facilitate that for them.
You know, and I love that. I love how you went on offense. And it's something that I talk about often with other trainers, even with clients. You know, sometimes we're so accustomed to complaining about a thing. We will concentrate on all the things that are missing from a process, the things that we don't have. You know, it's so easy to immediately, you know, you go, in my case, I call it old school Black Southern grandmother. I'm in the US for those of you that don't know, but you get into complain mode, you know, where you've got these longings and these, but you can't see them in person. So, I mean, how can you train them? They're not going to do what they're supposed to do. But what you're saying is you took what was possible to do and sort of expanded on that. Well, sure, they're not going to be right in front of me, but I can contact them more. I can be more available. Now, are there any processes or services that you did not do in person that you do now? Like anything like, you know, did you get involved with food at all, or nutrition or anything like that?
Yeah, so I never offered nutrition coaching in person, but now I do with online. So it's a package deal between fitness and nutrition, and it has exponentially changed the way my business has worked.
And what do you think the reason was that you didn't do it in person?
You know, just with that pocket of time to train a person, to catch up on their week, to ask about their personal life, to problem solve, all within, you know, 1 hour, it's incredibly hard to address all of those things and then also educate them about nutrition in a way that they can really apply, you know, for the remainder of the week. And to be honest, then they didn't have the accountability of me after that week. So I could tell them that they need to be eating better in, you know, this capacity, but really after, you know, the session is over, I have no control over what happens. Whereas now with online, I'm way more engaged with them and we interact way more so that I can help them through that process, not just for an hour, but for, you know, an entire day or an entire week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, guys, I want to share this with everyone that's listening, because I think it's important, and maybe it's a concept that goes over our heads sometimes. And Jen, feel free to jump in anytime here as I'm going through this. Just 3-second soapbox moment. You know, it's not 1990 anymore, nor is it 1980 or 1970. Most of us communicate electronically way more than we did even 15 years ago. So for those of us in this business who were here in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and I'm one of those people, guys, there's so many ways to reach out to the next human. And these ways are so natural for how we live now. It's not like you have to mail a letter to a long distance client, or you need to use a long distance service on your telephone. They're literally, guys, they're literally in the palm of your hand. Your clients are all right here, just a few keystrokes away. And that's something great that Jen, you really take advantage of that with your long distance clients. And it's amazing for me to hear that now that they are online clients, do you feel like you're more connected now than you were before?
100%.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's talk about a few of your key points that sort of circulate around your major takeaway, which is that online training isn't really the same thing as in-person training. And one of those takeaway points for you was sort of separating yourself from the rest of the masses in this industry, the perceived masses. I don't think it's I don't think online services from trainers are as watered down as we think, because everybody's not good at it. Everybody's not genuine with it. But share with us a little bit of one of those key takeaways that you talked about, that you and I talked about, which is just sort of separating and individualizing yourself as an online trainer.
Sure. And there's kind of two ways that you can look at it. You need to approach online training as though it is different. So the way you market it, the way you talk about it, the way you speak about the benefits of it, that needs to come across completely separate to in-person training. So if you're constantly comparing them, people are always going to be confused. But if you are able to advertise why online training is better and really highlight the benefits of it, and if you truly believe the benefits of it, like I do, it's really, you're not selling it. It's really just great, and you believe in it. So you need to separate yourself in that capacity. But also, I have a certain amount of I have a certain amount of friends within my social, community, and they're very different from yours, Ren. And so I need to approach my community as though it is my community. And if I can become acknowledged as the fitness expert within my community, then I'm making an impact. I don't need to reach all across Canada, but maybe I reach, my small community and become the source of knowledge that people trust within my community. And that would look different than yours. And that's completely okay. But what happens then is either clients, whether they contact me now to want to work with me or whether they contact me 6 months from now, they will remember that I am the person that they trust because I am constantly posting information that's relevant to them. I'm posting information that helps solve their problems. And whether they need me now or later, I become that source that they trust eventually. And also whether they need me to hire, like whether they want to hire me or whether they know someone within their community that could benefit from me, then they're doing the work of expanding my community.
Absolutely. So in that context, how do you get the engagement? How do you get your clients to engage with you? What are your strategies there?
Yeah. So first off, I had to really establish, who were my clients and the clients that I really wanted to work with. And one of the great things that OTA did initially was they encouraged me to do a survey. And honestly, I probably didn't 100% know my clients until I did that survey. And what I did is I created, questions as to what would you want? You know what I mean? And it was busy students, working women, and busy moms. And so I had these people in mind, and I created a survey that basically just asked them, if in an ideal situation, what would you have and what would you want? What would be provided? What are some of the issues that you have? What would you consider some of the problems that you have? And then I basically sent that to every single woman in my community that fit kind of the clientele that I loved working with. And right away, I had a heap of knowledge as to what these people would want. And rather than having to then waste my time and energy creating something that wasn't even relevant to them, I had tangible information as to what they needed. And I could focus all my attention on providing that, and also using a language that they understand, because I'm using words that, they provided to me. And so by doing that, I gained an understanding as to what the problems were for my clients, what they perceived the solutions would be, and what they desired the solutions to look like. And then also I learned how they talk and how they think, and some of the things that they face from day to day. So it really allowed me to get into the head of my clients. So then really I'm just providing information that's relevant to them and what they need.
That makes perfect sense. So you did the work. I mean, long story short, you did the work of figuring it out.
Yeah.
It's got to be much better when you're not constantly guessing. Let's switch gears with your permission, Jen, because I want to talk a little bit more about the business side too.
Sure.
Let's talk the all important freedom number. And for folks out there that aren't sure exactly what the freedom number is, and feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, here. It's basically the number that you arrive at, that the amount of income per month, per year, whatever it is, that allows you a sense of comfort, a sense of peace financially, a sense of joy. And it's not random. It's not, you don't throw out, $1 million a month. Like it's not a random number. you really do take your time to consider all the information involved, starting with your personal finances, your personal obligations financially per month, et cetera, et cetera. But walk us through sort of your freedom number, Jen, when you started. Give us some information about how you arrived at your goals for the month or year or what have you in terms of your business. Just let us in on how you're interacting with that freedom number, what it means to you, and how to utilize that to keep your business going.
Yeah, sure. So with the freedom number, I had done it initially when I first went through the course, and it probably was different to what it is now. But actually, just in the last year, I've revisited it because it initially just gave me a tangible goal that gave me an idea of actually how many people do I need to work with in order to make this a thing for me. And so it was a nice number to have in the back of my head. But as this last year came, it actually became more of a necessity as to like, I need to hit these goals in order to make my financial goals a reality. And the reason being is with the long distance relationship, I'll be moving to Australia next year. And so I needed to account for the fact that I needed to replace any income that I had in person, whether it was through group training or in-person training. I was going to need to replace that with online training because next year I wouldn't have the opportunity, or wasn't going to try and have the opportunity to have to train in person. The goal next year is to be 100% online. And so I did that freedom number again, and I came up with the fact that I was going to need 40 clients, and that would replace all of my in-person client, and that would also cover just all of the financial goals and stuff that I had needed from month to month. And so it was intimidating to look at that number, but it was also super beneficial because then I know where I'm at in terms of my progress. I know where I'm at in terms of, how many clients I need from month to month. And that too, it created a little bit of competition within myself and a little bit of confidence because there was always something to aim for. And, being a competitive person, I kind of strived off of that and really I enjoy my business now more because there's some kind of tangible goal from month to month. And so I think I started with something like 7 in January, and then I got to 40 just this last month. And so I have achieved that goal, and now moving forward, I can maybe either reassess that freedom number, or I can kind of just use that now continuing on as my goal.
I love it. I love it. Congratulations, by the way, for hitting at least your initial freedom number, because we know when we hit them, usually another one pops out. So I'm just out of curiosity, if you don't mind sharing, do you have another freedom number established? Do you have a new goal established already? And if so, if you don't mind sharing, what is it?
Sure. Yeah, so I wanted to get really comfy with 40 clients because I'm also more about quality than quantity. So I first wanted to hit that goal and then make sure that I was doing a really good job with that goal. But I think probably now moving into the fall, so in September, October, I think I will eventually start pushing hopefully towards about 60 clients.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. And one more thing about that freedom number, guys, and this is just general information. I'm an old sales guy, literally an old sales guy. But you always want to start with the end in mind. We used to tell when I was training agents for sales, I would teach them to start with the end in mind, and then what you do is you backwards engineer it. So it takes the emotion out of the goal, right? So if I know that I want 40 clients, and if I want them by the end of the year, first thing I'm probably going to do is I'm going to roll back 40 divided by 12. So I'm going to figure out how many clients do I need per month. And then from that point, I can take, how many clients I need per month and divide that by 4 and figure out how many clients do I need per week. That allows me to utilize my systems. And this lets me know how many times per year I need to recruit clients, how many ads I need to do if that's my methodology, how diligent I need to be with the messaging 5 people every day in Messenger, like John teaches us in the OTA. So your business will be structured to the extent of what your end result is. If you don't have an end result already, you're a bit like the little balloon things out in front of a car dealership that flap in the wind. That's not a great. Nobody wants to be the balloon man in front of a car dealership. It's
Nope.
not a great business strategy. Always start with the end in mind. And Jen, you did an amazing job. I'm wrapping my head around the fact that you started at 19 also, because this is mind-boggling for me. I think at 19 I was still tying bath towels to my neck to see if I could fly off my mother's house. But just the fact that you approached that with such a lucid plan is just a great indication of the type of business person that you are. Somebody planted that entrepreneur seed in you a long time ago. So in the context of hitting that freedom number, now you feel a little bit more comfortable heading to Australia next year, which congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I told you guys this was better than Titanic. Congratulations on hitting that number and making it to Australia. So what's sort of next for you? It's about time to wrap this live session up. We'll get to one or two more points, but what's next for you? What's the next thing, the next part of your process in your business? I know you want to maintain those 40 clients that you have, but where are you going from here?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel in some ways that I am riding this wave. This probably now, since the beginning of this year, it probably feels like I'm the closest ever to where I've wanted to be in my business, just in terms of providing what I originally wanted to clients. And so I really feel like I'm in a bit of a sweet spot here, and I obviously know that I can't stay there, but I really just want to keep refining the quality of service that I'm able to provide clients. The one thing I did love about in-person training was you always had my undivided attention, whether that was to listen, whether that was, to lead you, the encouragement. And despite being online, I still want to make that a really intentional thing in the way that I do my business, as I want people to know that I'm there for them 100%, whatever stage they're in. And so I think it'll probably in the next year will just be about being able to refine that process, but also to be able to accommodate more, because I would love to be able to help more people. And if I can do that, in Australia and be completely online, or if I can do that in a way where I'm going back and forth, I'm living a life that I love, but also, my clients aren't suffering as a result of that. So really, that's the biggest, I think, win-win that I could achieve.
And this ties in great to a couple of your last points. One is just understanding your client, right? Just knowing who your client is, and then getting involved in that community. And I'm sure that the folks that are listening out there in internet land or listening to this on podcasts, can you give us some quick tips about understanding who it is you're servicing and how that's helpful, and how to get entrenched in the community? How do you do that?
Sure. So I think the first thing to consider is you need to be genuine about who you actually want to work with, because you can't fake being genuine. And so if you're really not interested in sports at all, but somehow you want to train athletes, it just doesn't work. You need to find a market that you genuinely are passionate about, that you're interested in, that's relevant to your life. And it's going to make it so much easier for you to do your job, and you'll enjoy your job so much more because you authentically, are invested in this person and in their life and what their life looks like. So I think you really got to start there and think about, who am I passionate about? What in my own life am I passionate about? And is there some way that, I can blend the two together? And then from there, I think, once you have a few clients that are within that, kind of realm, how can you encourage them to talk to people that are just like them? And how can they continue to expand your community that way? And, maybe that looks like you're hosting some kind of group training. For example, I've done this before, where you've hosted some kind of group training where you've initially invited, 3 or 4 people that fit kind of the type of people that you want to work with. And then what you do is you maybe give them some kind of incentive, or you give them some kind of invitation or some kind of gift if they invite friends. And right away there, then you're doing it out of, you're genuine, you're giving them a gift because you really do appreciate them, but then they're going to do the work for you because they genuinely like working with you also. And so I think it's just a little bit of back and forth in that capacity.
That makes total sense. So, one of my favorite Einstein quotes is, and I quote Einstein often around the house, to animals, passersby, because that's just the type of human I am. Everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking it's stupid. And I think that applies so well to what we do as online trainers, right? Because, or just trainers in general, because there's sort of a fear of authenticity initially, right? You want to be a professional. You in some cases you want to hit a market that you think is going to be lucrative. In some cases you want to, as you so aptly explained, you've got a desire to work with Major League Baseball athletes, never having played baseball, and you don't even like to watch it. But it sounds good, right? And the key really to a lucrative business, and I'm not just talking financially, but that's certainly a big asset, is just authenticity. Yep. It's just being exactly who you are. And I think for fitness professionals in general, I think that we all do much better when we share our authentic selves and our most authentic story about who we are exactly. I don't know who coined the phrase, but I see it often. Your vibe attracts your tribe, right? That's how you. And when I see people post in the groups, how do you find clients? I don't know what my niche is. I don't know who to service. Oftentimes, my most simple answer is, hey, just be your authentic self. If you hate birds, there's a whole group of people out there who need trainers, and they also hate birds. If you love apples and planting apple trees, there's a whole group of people out there who love apples and love planting apple trees, and that's the real benefit of online training. You're not reduced to the local people in your area. There are billions of people on the planet, and at least 100 of them vibe with you in the same way. As John says, those golden rules, it's just your job to do a great job and make sure everybody knows about it, especially those 100 people. Great points, Jen. So let's wrap this thing up. Sure. I've got something that I like to call the hot sauce. I'm in the South. I'm in the Southern U.S. The city that I'm from produces a hot sauce called Texas Pete hot sauce that's made in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the bustling metropolis of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. You guys should visit. It's amazing. It's not, but you should visit anyway. So what's your big hot sauce? What do you think the people out there need to know that maybe they don't know? What's your secret stuff? What do you think really drives the online training for you? And I'm putting you on the spot here because I didn't preface this with Jen when we spoke earlier. But give us a nugget. We need a big juicy nugget. Anything you want. I'll give you some time to think about it. You take it from.
I think I have one actually.
All right, let's do it.
So in addition to everything that we have talked about, when you are with your clients or when you're working with them online, I think it's really important that you find ways that they have to engage with you, because online training can potentially become frustrated if you feel like you're always chasing clients and never hearing from them. And feeling like you're almost being ghosted. So if you can find ways for your clients to engage with you, whether it's, through a daily task or some kind of check-in, you can do a better job of coaching, because then you're actually meeting with them when they meet with you. It's not you being like, hey, where are you? What's going on? They're giving you tangible information about how their day is going, about how their situation is going, and you can directly address it. And when they build that habit of engaging with you, it becomes easier on your part to do your job. So instead, you're not focusing on the admin side of things of just wondering where the heck this client is, but instead you're actually facilitating the coaching, and you're doing, the most important part of your job, which is actually just being there for the client. So if you can find ways for your clients to engage with you, that's my little bit of hot sauce.
Oh, the sauce was so hot, Jen. I had to drink a nice cold glass of milk. Guys, that is the word for the day. That's a 45-second sermon. I love that, Jen. Thank you so much for sharing some of the sauce with us. Where can we find you on the internet, on the interwebs, in life? How can people reach out to you? Share that information with us.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thank you for having me. This has been really fun. In terms of reaching me, on Facebook, you can search my business page, which is Benefits Personal Training. On Facebook, you can find my personal page, which is Jen Lemke. I will have a website by like the end of the week, hopefully, which will normally be www.befitwithbenefits.com. And then on Instagram as well, you can reach me at __b.pt.
All right, guys, you've heard it here first. Jen is kicking doors in, taking names, training people. She's all over the world, multiple flights to Australia. The next time we speak, she'll have a full-on Australian accent. I can't wait for it. I want to hear the Canadian Australian hybrid. I think it's something like "Sorry, g'day." And I can't wait for that. Jen, hey, thanks so much for giving us time. We really appreciate it. You shared some amazing tips with us here today. Guys, if you came back to watch this broadcast, thank you so much. I hope we gave you some good information, some good sauce. But as Bruce Lee so famously said, knowledge is not enough. We must apply. So don't let this good information that Jen gave go to waste. Go out and implement it. Mess it up. Make a mistake. All your greatest triumphs are going to come on the backside of all your biggest goofs. My life should prove that more than anything. Jen, thanks so much. We'll chat again next time. To you guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Let's get busy. There's a whole planet of people that need us to save them. So let's mobilize and get active out there. My name is Ren Jones. This has been the PTDC, and we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.